This section provides a comprehensive examination of why some people label Ukraine as a Nazi country and evaluates the veracity of this claim, drawing on historical, political, and contemporary evidence. The analysis aims to offer a thorough understanding for readers seeking depth beyond surface-level assertions. Historical context and origins of the claim. The accusation that Ukraine is a Nazi country has roots in both historical events and modern geopolitical tensions. During World War II, parts of Ukraine were occupied by Nazi Germany, and some Ukrainian nationalist groups, such as the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, OUNB, collaborated with the Nazis against the Soviet Union for tactical reasons, not ideological alignment. This collaboration included participation in atrocities, such as the murder of Jews, but it is important to note that 10 million Ukrainians fought in the Red Army against the Nazis, with 1.5 million dying in combat, dwarfing the number of collaborators. Post-war, some nationalist groups continued as anti-Soviet insurgents, but modern Ukraine, independent since 1991, is a different entity. The claim of Nazism has been amplified by Russian propaganda, particularly since the 2014 annexation of Crimea and the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian war. Russian President Vladimir Putin has used denazification as a pretext for the 2022 invasion, falsely claiming the Ukrainian government is neo-Nazi. This rhetoric spiked in Russian media references to Nazism, especially on February 24, 2022, the day of the invasion, as shown by an analysis of nearly 8 million articles. Ukraine's current political system is a democracy, with President Volodymyr Zelensky, elected in 2019 with 73% of the vote, being Jewish and having family members who were Holocaust victims. This fact directly contradicts the notion of Ukraine being a Nazi country. Electoral data further supports this. Far-right parties have rarely exceeded 3% of the popular vote since independence, with the Svoboda Party peaking at 10.4% in 2012 but declining to 2% by 2019. No far-right candidate has secured more than 5% in presidential elections, indicating their marginal political influence. Despite the government's democratic nature, Ukraine does have far-right and neo-Nazi groups, such as the Azov Battalion, founded in 2014 by Andriy Biletsky, a white supremacist who once stated the goal was to lead the white races of the world in a final crusade. The Azov Battalion, now part of the National Guard as the 12th Special Operations Brigade, has been accused of using neo-Nazi symbolism, such as the wolf's angle, and has leadership with demonstrated neo-Nazi ties, including social media accounts adorned with such symbols. Other groups, like the National Militia, have engaged in violent actions, such as storming city council meetings, often with tacit law enforcement approval. However, these groups' influence is limited. The Azov Battalion, while integrated into the military, does not control government policy, and their existence has been exploited by Russian propaganda to suggest widespread Nazism, which experts like Larissa Doroshenko from Northeastern University describe as a false narrative to justify military tactics, such as the destruction of Mariupol. A statement signed by over 300 historians of Nazism and the Holocaust rejected Putin's claims, noting that while Ukraine has right-wing extremists, this does not justify equating the state with the Nazi regime. The claim of Ukraine being a Nazi country is a key part of Russian disinformation campaigns, resonating with Russian national identity formed around defeating the Nazis in World War II. Russian state media and figures like Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov have labeled President Zelensky a Nazi, despite his Jewish heritage, as part of a strategy to delegitimize the Ukrainian government and justify invasion. This narrative has been criticized by organizations like the Anti-Defamation League and the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, who argue it is factually wrong and morally repugnant. It is worth noting that the presence of neo-Nazi groups is not unique to Ukraine. Similar groups exist in many countries, such as the United States and Russia itself, where groups like Rusich, led by avowed Nazi Alexei Milchakov, fight alongside Russian forces in Ukraine. This highlights the hypocrisy in Russian claims, as they also harbor such elements. The integration of Azov into the Ukrainian military, while controversial, mirrors historical instances where states have utilized militias for defense, such as during the early stages of the Donbas War, but does not indicate state endorsement of their ideology. In conclusion, the claim that Ukraine is a Nazi country is not supported by evidence and appears to be a Russian propaganda tool. While there are neo-Nazi and far-right groups within Ukraine, their political influence is minimal, and the country's government, led by a Jewish president, is democratic and not aligned with Nazi ideology.